Hello and welcome back to another episode of Not Overthinking. Tamor, how are you doing today?
Not doing too badly. You know, it's relatively early in the morning. It's like 8:30 or something. My morning, have I talked about this before?
Your morning poo?
Yeah.
No, I don't think you have.
Oh, okay. Well,
It's been at least a few years.
Basically, my morning poo is like a full 30 to 45 minute ordeal where like, okay, I'll just leave it there. But yeah, it's kind of annoying.
Can I ask a question?
What?
How much of this ordeal, would it still be a 30 to 45 minute ordeal if you didn't take your phone in with you?
Yeah, genuinely. Yeah.
Really?
For sure.
Okay.
Yeah.
What are the problems?
I mean, there's just a lot.
I mean, feel free to go into it 6 months from now, but if you think this is too personal.
No, basically, like it's kind of a multi-stage thing.
Yeah.
There's like a few there's like three. It's like a 3-act play.
Okay.
And so like, yeah, I could get up between the acts, but then I'll just have to go back to the toilet. And so like, I know it's coming. And so I just like sit there. But I think the real challenge is like, depending on the day, I might just like scroll Twitter, or I might like do something better, like read Kindle or something like that. Or, you know, start going through emails or whatever. So it's a bit of like a test of willpower. Of like, do I want to just like scroll various feeds? At some point I get to LinkedIn feed. Like I think I hit LinkedIn this morning. Yeah.
My goodness.
So that's what I have to say about that.
Have you come across an app called 1 Sec? Have I told you about this?
It's like stops. It like forces you to pause before you go on Twitter.
Yeah. It's really good. If anyone's listening to this and you have an issue with just randomly going on Twitter or Instagram or YouTube or TikTok or other such apps, you can download an app on iOS called 1 Sec, ONESEC. In fact, I actually reached out to the guy on Twitter and we've got a little discount code if you look in the show notes, lol. But basically what it does is that it takes a little bit of time. It takes about 30 seconds to set up because it's effectively an Apple automation where the instant you open an offending app like Twitter or Instagram or YouTube, it kind of says, take a deep breath.
Yeah.
And then you have to wait 3 seconds and it says, do you still want to go on Twitter? And then you've got the option of going on Twitter, but it also lets you select like apps. Like I've got Kindle and Audible as being the good apps that I'm recommended to click on. And often I find that like when I find myself on Twitter, it's just because my muscle memory has brought me there. And that 3-second pause of just actually asking myself, do I really want to be here? Has made me, apparently in the last week, close Twitter 85 times and saved 10 hours of my life, according to the stats on this app. So like, this is the ultimate productivity hack.
1 Sec. Okay. Yeah, I'll try that. I feel like I did try this a while ago. I think another game changer would be if like, when you unlock your phone, you can just make it default to an app like Kindle rather than default to your app's screen or whatever. I think that would be quite useful. Maybe there's an automation for that. I'm sure there is. I
mean, even if you did, you would then muscle memory immediately to going to the home screen, so it would become almost irrelevant.
Anyway, that's me. How are you doing?
I'm doing all right. Spent last week surfing in Morocco.
Oh yeah, how was that?
It was really good. So I was total beginner. We went to this surfing camp for about 5 days, 4 days of lessons with our instructor Tawfiq in a place called Tagazout in Morocco. And yeah, I was sick. By kind of halfway through day 1, I was catching waves and standing up and stuff.
Nice.
By day 2, I was able to sort of roughly hold my balance and catch a few decent waves. And then day 3, we ventured out into the quote green waves.
Oh yeah.
And didn't get a single thing. But like,
wait, what do you mean?
So essentially with surfing, there's like white water and then there's green water.
Okay.
The white water is when the wave is crested and it becomes white, basically.
Okay.
But before then, if you imagine a wave, it's just actually, you know, like if we go deep out into the ocean, it's like, now if you're a pro surfer, you can find a big wave which is still green and like catch it and start riding the wave while it's still green.
Got it.
Whereas if you're a noob, you can only
what makes it difficult?
The thing that makes it difficult to catch a wave generally is the fact that you have to be kind of paddling faster, sort of similar speed to the wave as the wave approaches you.
Oh, okay.
Then there is this moment of like surge where you have to kind of feel the speed of the board underneath you, and then you have to stand up in that time.
Okay.
That's the generally difficult thing about surfing. But with green waves, it's harder because the wave has a lot less power at that stage of it before it's crested, and so you have to like your paddling has to be super strong to be able to grab the wave while it has low power, and you have to know the exact moment to stand up so that you can appropriately ride the wave.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's fun. And actually, like, a major faff is actually just paddling out there. Because
yeah, dude, surfing looks like the biggest faff in the world. Like, you spend like 90% of the time like paddling, dragging your board up and down the beach.
Yeah, it's like playing tennis with someone who doesn't know how to play tennis. You spend half the time collecting the balls. But like with surfing, it's even harder because it's like you're going up the beach and you've got these waves that are just like destroying you as you come along. And you're like, right, I just need to get through this next one. And then it's like you take one step forward and you literally get buffeted back 3 steps by the next wave that comes along. It's like, oh crap, there's another one. Now I'm 6 steps back.
So what's the appeal of surfing? It seems so like
it's quite nice. It makes you one with nature.
That is nice, yeah.
And it's a good like communal activity if you're doing it with friends. And I think that feeling of riding a wave and balancing and sort of like it almost makes you feel like a waterbender.
Yeah, that must be like super nice. But again, it's like 5% of the whole time you're spending, isn't it? Or less.
Yeah. But that's fine, man.
That's fine. Wow.
That's what the surfer dudes do.
It's about patience and stuff.
Exactly. It's about serenity. It's about like being one with nature. It's about being in the present moment.
Okay. So you liked it?
I liked it.
Would you do it again?
I would definitely do it again. Yeah, I would. I want to organize like a group surfing trip. Because I think it's such a hack to just be able to say, I want to, like, I've got this long list of things I want to do on my, like, to-doist. But it's such a hack being able to find an all-inclusive camp where, like, you know, they deal with your airport transfers, your accommodation, the food. They give you a packed lunch for when you're thingy. They're like, have the instructors, they drive you out to the places. Like,
oh, so it's a group of people.
Yeah. So we had like 4 people in our group, and they sort of put you into groups of similar levels.
Yeah.
But then often surfing is a fairly individual activity in that like you're catching waves individually rather than as a collective. But no, would recommend.
What are the vibes in Morocco in general?
In the place that we were in, it was a place called Tiger. It was like super nice. Like super chill. I mean, the place we were in was like really cool. Surf Morocco, if anyone's looking. It was sort of this kind of hotel by the beach thing, so you could see the sea out of your window. It had an infinity pool.
Nice.
It had a little hammock. It was very much sort of lanterns and hammocks kind of vibe.
Okay, yeah.
Whereas apparently if you go to Marrakesh, it's very much like hustly bustly, people trying to sell you stuff every 5 seconds.
Yeah, that's good stuff.
So that was me last week. And then this week has been just a load of work stuff. And yeah, working on the final draft, for the first draft of the final chapter of the book, which is all about purpose and meaning of life kind of stuff.
So you've done the first draft of the rest of the book?
Yes.
Nice.
Yeah, it's making progress. I mean, the first draft is really, really, really bad of the rest of the book, but like apparently you just got to trust the process, trust the editors.
Yeah.
And hopefully it'll get better over time.
So you're happy with the first draft for the rest of it?
No, it's really bad.
But like, is it the right first draft that you can then edit, or do you still feel like you might be off base?
It's better than nothing.
Okay.
I think like the groundwork is laid, and now it's the next 6 months is just about refining and editing and adding more good stuff and removing all the crap stuff and that kind of vibe.
Yeah, nice, man.
Yeah.
Yeah, the surfing camp thing sounds good. I've wanted to do that kind of thing for a while, of like go on a retreat where you learn some new activity like badminton or surfing. Yeah, actually a friend of mine has been on a surfing camp as well a couple of years ago. I remember he mentioned it and it sounded like a good idea.
Yeah, it's a total no-brainer. Like this is one thing I want to do more of, basically blocking out holidays in advance and booking kind of curated activities in that time.
Yeah.
Because otherwise it's like, oh, I really want to learn to surf, but like immediately it seems like a faff.
Yeah, dude. Yeah. Even
like,
when I just like think about it, I'm like, oh my God, like renting equipment, bloody wetsuit, just putting a wetsuit on. Oh my goodness. Like,
yeah. I mean, when you're putting it on with 4 other people who are all struggling as well, then it becomes a more fun experience. But yeah, no, I think the all-inclusive camp is the ultimate. I've never really tried a package holiday, but I wonder if that's the next because organizing holidays is also a faff.
Well, weren't you big on going on a cruise? You haven't done that yet.
I haven't done the cruise thing yet. I mean, like COVID put a stop to that.
Yeah. I was having dinner with some people a few days ago, and they were advocating for cruises as a concept. I remember
as a place to work.
No, as just like a good holiday format.
Yeah, apparently it's really good for families because then there's something for everyone to do.
Apparently.
Whereas allegedly on sightseeing holidays with the family, it's like inevitably you're going to get like clashes of people not wanting to do the sightseeing.
Yeah.
So the cruise feel like I've heard from my friends who enjoy cruises, it's like great for collective plus individualism.
Right. Yeah. I wanted to give a little update from one of our recent episodes. We did an episode where we talked about a bunch of things, but also about a book called The Case Against the Sexual Revolution. And we got an email from a listener a couple of days ago about it. And the email was basically saying, listener was a woman, I think maybe like late 20s, early 30s, I think. And it was basically saying like, you know, like the episode, she like the ideas and stuff like really resonated with her. And when she was in her, maybe I'll just like read out some little snippets. All right. So she says, this entire concept around sexual liberty for women and feminism and the sexual liberation has been fascinating me a lot lately, along with along the role and definition of modern masculinity and how that fits in with what seems to be the almost disparate role of femininity. I totally agree with the sentiment of the book. The sexual revolution left women worse off. The one phrase, we've smoothly transitioned from one form of feminine subservience to another, but pretend this one is liberation, completely hit home. I think a drastic shift away from the status quo was necessary 60 years ago, but it hasn't evolved since then. And that's what I think needs to change and what needs to evolve. And I think you're right. It feels like we are at peak, or probably even moving past peak, liberal sexuality and socially swinging back to more conservative ideals around it. Like Louise, in my early 20s, I would have fought for liberal values and my right to be able to emulate men, which is crazy because I'm not a man. But somehow I believe that was the morally right course of action for society, even though we have such different needs. Men and women are different, and that's beautiful. That's what makes intergender friendships, for example, so interesting, because of the diversity of experience. Now, in my late 20s, I would not consider myself a feminist by the sense that it has come to signify. What's so frustrating is that, in her circles, it seems like she's kind of turned into this poster girl for feminism, and she kind of seems to go along with it and just delivers the party line. But she says, perhaps it's time to say what I suspect many women are feeling. So, yeah, I think honestly, even from talking to friends about this, the general sense I get from women I've spoken to about this is damn, yeah, I think I've been thinking that same thing.
Yeah,
but you can't really say it. You can't really talk about this.
Yeah, I mean, I'm in the process of reading the book. I'm interviewing Louise Perry on the pod on the deep dive with Ali Abdaal podcast in I think 2 weeks' time. So that should be fun.
Nice. Yeah, that'll be sick.
Yeah, it's gonna be good. I feel like I had something to talk about this week. Something I've been thinking about. One thing I've been thinking about is when is enough enough? Right?
Oh my god, man! Yeah.
Yeah. It's this all comes down to what am I doing with my life? All of those things which I have yet to figure out. But I've been rereading the book "It Doesn't Have to Be Crazy at Work" by the Basecamp gang, the Basecamp duo, Jason Fried and DHH. And a lot of it really vibes with me. I'm just yeah, this is good stuff.
Okay.
Their whole for context, for the potentially unfamiliar listeners, Basecamp is this software company based in remote, and they are very somewhat outspoken on the internet about building a calm company culture and how they do things differently. And they've written this book, It Doesn't Have to Be Crazy at Work, which is all about how chasing growth for the sake of growth's sake is just a bit stupid. And why not just try and build a calm company? Why not try and just have happy customers and at least, and be profitable, rather than thinking things like we need to grow 10% quarter on quarter, all of that jazz. Their whole philosophy is that apparently they don't have any goals. Apparently in the summer, all 50 people of their team take Fridays off, so they only work 32-hour weeks. And they're life is so much more fun when you don't have goals, when you do short-term planning, when you just focus on basically appreciating that you have enough when it comes to growing a company. But I guess kind of by analogy, by extension, that's a lot of life things as well. Whereas by default, I think society and capitalism and ego and stuff teaches us we need to strive for more and more, whether it's more money for our business or more grades for our med school exams or more accolades for whatever. And I've just been thinking a lot around a lot of people who I really admire seem to have defined or seem to have figured out that they actually do have enough, and they don't need to strive for quote selfish goals anymore, and they can just strive towards being of utility in the world, or I don't know, having impact with their careers, or things like that.
Yeah, I think the thing about the Basecamp guys is it really just depends on what you care about. It sounds like Basecamp's a great profitable business. That's good for them. Some people want to do that. Friggin' Elon Musk is not trying to start a nice profitable business so he can chill out and work 4 days a week. He's trying to get people to Mars and shit like this. And that doesn't happen on 4 days a week, and that doesn't happen with this mindset. It just depends on what you care about. If you're Elon Musk and you care about certain things, then you try and do those things basically. I don't know, maybe I haven't read the book, but the general vibe I get is that the Basecamp guys are basically present things as if there's two options. There's start a business to try and make loads of money for yourself, or there's do their thing of chilling out a bit and caring more about a calm life and stuff like this. So I think it depends on what you care about. It's very hard to imagine again an example like Elon Musk taking that approach, because
yeah, but I think
he's probably having a blast. He's doing what he loves.
Although he does say in interviews, we did a deep dive into him for like a video that he wouldn't recommend his life to anyone because it seems to be somewhat miserable. But anyway, I think it's not necessarily. I think the question isn't like, what do I want the goals and KPIs of my business to be? In Elon Musk's case, it's like, let's get people to Mars, and therefore that's like a clear.
Yeah, I think the question is like, what do you care about? And I think like making number go up of like dollars in some kind of bank account. So that seems to be like not enough of a thing to care about. Like that can't be the only thing, basically. Or I don't know, maybe it can. Like, I think it's definitely a big motivator for a lot of people, right? Like,
yeah, I think a big part of it is like, where are you on Maslow's hierarchy? If money is a problem, then making a dollar number go up is obviously like the thing that you have to optimize for. I think for most of the people I speak to these days on like interviews and podcasts and like other creators and stuff, once they have quote made it and the number has gone sufficiently up that like their lifestyle is covered and they've got some savings, at that point the question is like, what do you do next? And it's like, do I continue to make number go up, or do I decide that actually I want a chill life and I just want to keep the number fairly static so I can just continue to live my chill life? Do I want to kind of optimize for lifestyle where I spend more time with the wife and kids kind of vibes?
Right.
And
what do you think makes people like, it seems like a bunch of people want the chill life, but they're not living it and they feel like locked into trying to make numbers go up. Is that the case? Or
I feel like this massively depends on the kind of environment that you've been brought up in, as it were. But like certainly amongst sort of liberal, highly educated people in the West that I mostly hang out with, it's almost axiomatic that like, if you're not growing, you're declining. There is always a chase for number go up. And that's in a way like for example, if you're working at any job, the general trend is like, we need to make numbers go up. We need to get promoted. We need to strive for that next rung of the ladder. And in a way, it takes like the people who I know who seem to have broken out of this rat race of number go up.
Yeah.
Are very like kind of Zens, meditative, like those sorts of people. It feels as if they have really gone against the grain because the grain is pushing everyone to make numbers go up, whatever those numbers might be.
I feel like in my group among the people I know, if someone just decided to like have a chill life of like, working like enough and doing the things they like and stuff like that, that would actually be like a high status thing to do. Like other people would be like, damn, he's got it figured out. Like he's got a good thing, man.
Yeah.
It's not that like but other people would feel like, oh,
no,
numbers aren't going.
But I don't think it's explicitly that. It's not explicitly the level of like for example, the reason I am striving for numbers go up is not my friends will think I'm low status if I don't, or my friends will think I'm high status if I do. It's like something sort of more, I think, a level more subconscious or within like the societal river flowing of like numbers.
I agree. There is that societal river.
And so I guess what I'm trying to figure out is like, at what point does one break free from this? At what point are the reasons to make number go up actually just bullshit reasons? Because right now I've got some reasons in my mind to make numbers go up. One of those reasons is security, like financial security. One of those reasons is like, it's all well and good me saying, I've got enough right now, but like, what if a few years from now, when I've got a family and kids and a mortgage, I'll be like, oh damn, like, that time that those 15 minutes of fame that I had back in like 2018 to 2022, I really should have milked that a little bit more rather than thinking, you know what, I just want a chill life and play video games. It's like right now I can't afford to send my kids to the school that I want to send them to because I was like optimizing for playing video games when I was 29. and like, it seems a bit absurd, but like that feels like a good reason to
I know what you mean.
Numbers need to continue going up.
Yeah.
Or things like, what if I suddenly lost everything? What if I suddenly got cancelled because of something I said on this podcast? Therefore, YouTube channel goes to zero, courses go to zero.
Yeah.
Shit. Suddenly we've got this whole team of people to support. Therefore, numbers need to go up to be able to even sustain the business. And it's like, but I feel like there is a point at which like actually sort of exploring those reasons why numbers need to go up becomes not. And I think there's a third one. And that third one is just that it feels like an inherent good. Almost. That like, oh, of course you want your business to be growing. Of course you want numbers to be going up. Of course you want to become more successful over time and like upgrade your lifestyle and like, I feel like when I start naming those things, it starts to sort of, the emperor starts to have no clothes.
Yeah.
But like otherwise, it just feels like, oh, of course life is about making progress.
Yeah.
I don't know, man.
Yeah, I get what you mean about wanting like the future financial security and not wanting to be in a position where like 10 years from now you're like, damn, I should have had more numbers, man. Yeah. Like shit. Yeah, I think I definitely have that as well. And like, yeah, to whatever extent I care about making money, it's basically that of like, oh yeah, like future me, if I have like kids and stuff, like, I'd probably want some money.
Yeah, it'll be nice to take the kids to a surfing camp and not have to like be like, oh my God, this is breaking the bank kind of vibes.
I think there's just like too much of a more is better like mentality. Like even when you think about things like, oh man, I'd want to like send my kids to some like fancy private school or something, and so I need money. Even that is like, I mean, that's something where like, education on paper is something that's like, far a bit further removed from money. It's not like you're saying, oh, I want to like buy my kids the latest Nintendo, right? It's not like that. It's like, hey, I want them to have a good education. But I think even that is just like probably very tenuous. If I were to think about like what would be like the best education, I think it would look a lot more like homeschooling or some like, flexible schooling setup. I don't think it would look like, hey, send my kids to fucking boarding school.
No, but either way, like for example, homeschooling still requires some numbers compared to
it requires some numbers. But again, like, if you go back like, I don't know, 100 years or something, like you don't need massive amounts of money to homeschool your kids. Like you just need to be like, I guess you need to be happy to opt out of like the race for like bigger house, etc., etc. Like I think there's just this.
It all comes down to, I think, like opting out of the race, and at what point do you do that?
Yeah, I think just the trap is that like when you imagine the good life, you imagine the material things because it's hard to imagine the immaterial things, right? Like. Yeah, you can't really imagine just like vibing. I mean, there's a guy called Simon Saris on Twitter. I think he's the anecdote. He's the antidote to all of this. Do you follow Simon Saris? No, dude, you've got to follow Simon. Simon Saris is okay. So Simon Saris.
You're saying that as if I've like personally affronted you by not following.
I would have thought you would definitely be following. I would have
thought you'd have sent me his thing long ago.
I feel like I've probably like talked about him on the pod
for 3 bloody years, and I've never heard of Simon.
You have, mate. We've like done a whole.
We've not talked about Simon Saris.
We've done whole episodes on his blog post, mate.
No, wait, what? Damn.
He had a blog post about like, yeah, we've done it, man. The Most Precious Resources Agency. We did a podcast on this.
Did we?
Yeah, dude.
When?
Last year.
Send me the link to this blog post if you've got it to hand.
Okay, so Simon Saris basically, he's like the patron saint of trad Twitter. Basically, he's like, right. So he's a tech guy. He works on a JavaScript library for building interactive diagrams. That's called Go.js.
Oh, I've heard of this guy. Yeah. Okay, yeah.
Well, you know him because of his JavaScript library?
I know because you mentioned him. The JavaScript library.
Oh, okay, right. So like, he's a guy who works in tech. He works out or like runs this JavaScript library for building interactive diagrams. Extremely niche, like very technical niche thing.
Yep.
That's like, that's what he does. And then he also, I mean, he has a Substack where he writes posts occasionally, but his main contribution to the world is his family photos. Every, about twice a week, Simon Saris drops some new family pictures, and it'll be about his wholesome trad life in New Hampshire. Simon Saris lives in New Hampshire, which is kind of like countryside-y vibes in the US. He like lives, I don't know, pretty close to where he grew up. He hasn't like really left his area much. A few years ago, he bought this like house thing, like a building, like nothing fancy, just literally like a house with like nothing really going on inside. And he and his wife, I guess, have just like been slowly working on it over the years. They're always like building something. Like I think he's building a goose house right now. Like they're, just like building stuff in the yard. And like he has this little kid who's really cute. And so like on Twitter, he posts like, once or twice a week, he'll drop a few family photos, just looking like the most like wholesome, like trad lifestyle. And like everyone just like loves this shit. And so like I think he seems to be someone who has chosen that. And
so he's working on this JavaScript library, probably just hacking away at it and sort of in his quote working hours, working from home, from his laptop or whatever.
Yeah.
And just spending the rest of the time with the wife and kids, building stuff around the house and taking family photos and going for walks in the wilderness and that sort of vibe.
That's the sense I have. I mean, let me just see if I can find...
Rather than the vibe of like, hey, I'm a software developer, I've built this library, let me go kind of try and build the next startup or get a $1 million job at Facebook or whatever.
Some of his blog posts are more like personal journal-y type than others. So he has one called Where to Live. He says, "Dear friends, I'm a provincial person. I have lived in New Hampshire for almost my whole life, a few thousand feet from the hospital where I was born. Sometimes I tell people I've never been to America, for I've never seen Chicago or LA or Houston or anywhere outside of New England, really. I haven't even gotten around to visiting New York City, though it's only a 4-hour drive away. When I have means to travel, I cross the Atlantic, mostly though I have been to California. Today I live 10 miles from my birthplace. As a web developer, I've foregone some opportunity in order to stay here, where I'm in sort of a professional solitary confinement. It's hard to know if it's been the right move professionally, intellectually, etc. If it weren't for Twitter and Hacker News, I might go crazy. So I am deeply thankful for them making my home professionally bearable. And while I love New Hampshire, I'm not sure it loves me, and I can never find the words I would need to justify it over every other place. So this is not opposed to persuading anyone to come here. One reason I stay in New Hampshire, and ideal to me, is to live outside the city when young. Try to have a home, workshop, possessions. You can have the space to accumulate raw materials and tools and knowledge, learn through the work of your hands, have a place to make babies and give them the materials they need to create too. Instead of chasing nightlife, use your time to learn what it is you really like to build. You can visit the city often, of course, just not live inside it. Then when you're older and your kids are grown, you part with your possessions easily, perhaps giving your kids a hand starting their own homes in the process. But then it is onerous to maintain things and you should want to be more focused, i.e. like 10 hobbies instead of 100. Perhaps then you could easily move into a small pad in the city. Of course, the careerism trade-off is clear, as long as your eyes are open to what you're trading off. But he seems to be suggesting that, like, actually when you're young, you know, have a place in the countryside where you can build stuff, and then when you're old and can't maintain it all anymore, then move to like a small pad in the city. Any place you live should help you further your dreams. You should not live out your 20s as a single person in rural Maine if you wish to start a family. You should not live in a shoebox in NYC if you wish to learn timber framing. Beyond taking your life's goals seriously and orienting where you live around them, there are probably a number of places you could be perfectly happy. What matters more than finding the most perfect location is what you do when you get there. Many people seem to live in such a way that if they were dropped off in a different house in a different suburb of a different state, they almost wouldn't notice, as long as their house had TV and internet and the GPS still led them to Starbucks. The really important thing isn't where you live exactly, but being embodied in your living regardless of where you are. But yeah, basically, like, he's always just kind of lived around the same place and seems to be living the like homesteading life, and he's really happy with it. Like, it doesn't seem like he thinks he's foregoing too much. Like, clearly, like, he's professionally isolated, right? Like, no one around him works in tech and stuff, and he appreciates Twitter and Hacker News to be able to like chat to tech people and then feel some sense of like professional community. Like, clearly that's a trade-off for him. But the things that you think of, like, oh, if I want to give my family a good life, I need like all this money for like private schools, and, you know, I want to be able to take them on surf camps and things like this. I imagine like Simon Saras is not thinking this at all, and Simon Saras, you know, seems to spend an awful lot of time with his like kid. They're like building things together all the time, all of this kind of stuff. And so I think like we're just our sense of like what is good and valuable is very distorted, because like his kid's probably having a blast, gets to spend a lot of time outdoors with his parents, building stuff, like doing useful things, not like sitting in a school room like with textbooks all day. His kid's very young. I think I'd probably like below school age anyway. But I imagine these guys would be like into some kind of homeschooling or like flexible type of setup. But basically, I think it's similar to my mindset of like, you know, coffee is better than water because it's like costs more money or something. And like, if I'm thirsty, I'll feel like, oh, fuck, like, why would I have water? You know, like, it's not valuable because it doesn't cost money. Also, I don't know if it's a money thing or a taste thing, but like, I think I've talked about how there is this weird like, I should like,
it's just water.
It's just water. What actually, like, the water is the thing you need, man.
Yeah. Water is the thing you need.
Yeah.
That's the way to think about it. There was a good quote that I read the other day, which is like, don't think about how you can have the good life. Think about how you can have a good life. And I was like, ooh, that's good.
Yeah.
Because like the good life conjures up all of the materialistic things, but a good life makes you think, oh, actually, yeah, health, relationships, it's kind of it. Something to do, someone to love, something to look forward to.
Yeah, whenever I think about this, I kind of think that like I think if you weren't surrounded by people who also seemed like they wanted to make numbers go up and things like that, I think you'd care a lot less. Like if you were in,
No, I think that's very true. Yeah, I find myself like really appreciating the sort of the impact of kind of a peer group and of like kind of an information diet, as it were.
Right.
In the sense of when I kind of did that fateful interview with Will McCaskill a few weeks ago now.
I was like, that actually, yeah.
I was like, oh my God, this is sick. Like this guy doesn't seem to care about like numbers going up and only cares about like having impact. That's really, really, really cool. And then like 2 days later, I listened to an interview on My First Million with Neil Patel, the SEO marketing chap.
Yeah.
And they were talking about, hey man, so what's your burn rate? And he was like, oh, each month me and my wife, we spend around $250,000. And they were like, what? Each month you spend 250. He was like, yeah, we got help, we got a cleaner, we fly private sometimes. And just like, it's pretty good. It's a pretty good lifestyle. And they were just like, mind blown. And just sort of talking about it after that point in a very matter of fact way, being like, yeah, we had a $10 million agency, and then we decided, what, 10 million is like, whatever. So let's build a $100 million agency. But then this guy was also like, yeah, I don't really like to talk about money because, my wife likes to like build schools and like stuff in like rural parts of Southeast Asia and things like that. Right. So he also seems to be very like, actually cares about impact. It's not like it was a trade-off between making loads of money and being a total bad person versus making no money and being a really good person. It was very much like, oh, this is just, it seems to be an alternative way to live. And he seemed to be having fun as well. And then I was like, oh, damn, like that sounds cool. And essentially I find that like when I see someone who has got a certain type of lifestyle and I think, oh, okay, that's cool. I could see myself doing that. Then that often gets me to start thinking, what do they know that I don't? Like, why are they going for that thing? Like, what have they kind of figured out?
Yeah.
And I guess just thinking about this out loud, I was interviewing someone else on the podcast yesterday, Samantha Clark, who is one of the lecturers at the School of Life, who writes in books about like happiness at work and things like that. And her assessment of like my situation was that basically you need to stop listening to other people and just actually trust yourself.
Yeah.
About like what do you actually want for yourself?
Yeah, I think the general sense I get from these conversations is that you're looking very externally for like what you should be doing. I think it's related to what we said on the pod a few weeks ago, where I think, my feeling is like, every couple of months you'll sit down with with your entrepreneur mastermind group or something, and everyone will talk about this thing. But I just don't think that's the way to actually get to an answer. Or like even a direction.
So I think it actually might be. So the counter to that. So I was chatting to the girlfriend about this the other day, and she was like, like society has this drive towards more ego and stuff, just always. And apparently in the world of like meditation, there is this concept of like, even when you're a meditation master, equipped master, you still have to do the practice, and you still have to come back to the practice, and it is the practice and doing it daily, basically, that helps you break free of that ego thing. It's not like a one and done type situation.
Yeah.
And so her theory was that what if every couple of weeks to months you just need to sit down and do a 4-hour journaling session and that's basically your practice of deciding that actually numbers go up is a bad thing, or is not necessarily what I want. And I was like, okay, that felt like a good framing of it, because it moves it away from there's this thing I need to figure out and I've not yet figured it out, towards actually, with the march of capitalism, I actively need to have the conversations in my entrepreneur mastermind or do my 4-hour journaling session in a forest or whatever. To continue to try and break free from the shackles of the rat race, rather than it being like I just need to be sufficiently enlightened to turn the switch in my mind and then suddenly I've broken free.
Yeah. I think there's something to the like just sit down and like just think about it on a regular basis and like meditate on it. There's a guy who I'm a big fan of, a guy called Prince Ghazi bin Mohammed of Jordan. And in a couple of like he's sort of like an academic and author and stuff like this. And in a couple of like interview type like talks that he's done, he talks about like how like most people have not ever like broken through the idle mental chatter. Like most people think that the idle mental chatter that's going on in their head, they think that's them. Like, this is me. Like these random thoughts that are just coming to my mind, this like chatter in my head. This is me. This is like what existence is. And he thinks that like you need to basically like sit down for like 1 or 2 days, like basically doing nothing. See all those thoughts through until you actually have a clear mind, and then like maybe you'll start to become a real person. But like the mental chatter and idle thoughts, they basically drive us like 24/7. In his view, that this is not like who you are. Like this bit of a not a psyop, but just like a mind virus, I guess.
Yeah.
That like we think that these random, this is me. Like these are like my thoughts. These aren't your thoughts. This is like random stuff from your information diet, if you want to call it that. So I think that's something I've that kind of resonated. Like that seems legit.
Would you be keen on going on a silent meditation retreat at some point?
Yeah, I'd be down.
Nice.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not even sure if it needs to be like a silent meditation retreat. You just like go out somewhere and just like not do anything and not talk for like a couple of days.
Yeah, you could, but like, when are you going to make time in your calendar for that? Essentially.
Yeah, I mean, just like a weekend trip with lads or something, and then you just sit and do nothing. But yeah, I'm down. I do think it needs to be done because I think like I've never really broken past the mental.
There's a company I've recently invested in called Unplugged. Basically, they their whole business model is interesting. They go out to random farms in the UK and negotiate with the farmers to be like, can we build a cabin in the woods on your farmland, which is disconnected from like all Wi-Fi and all 3G and all that jazz, and we'll give you a rev share when we Airbnb it out. And the farmers are like, sure, because it helps them get more diversity out of their land broadly. And so they've got these cabin in the woods where I've booked like a 4-day sesh in some like August sometime. Where it's just like, someone comes to you. I think the farmer and his family like bring you food three times a day. And beyond that, like you're supposed to lock your phone away. They give you a little lockbox and a little key, and they'll give you like some crappy Nokia brick phone in case of emergencies. But you lock your phone away. You're in nature. You've got your kind of food taken care of, and you just need to sit there and like basically do nothing for like 3 days. And it's all in places that are like close enough to London, but like far enough away that you feel as if you're in the middle of nowhere.
That's great.
So that'll be interesting. I'm gonna try that out end of August. It's like I spoke to the founder of it like 4 months ago, and he was like, all right, we should book you in. I was like, all right, let's look at the calendar. Nope. It's like 6 months later, I have a space in my calendar, and I'm like, this is a bad sign. This is telling.
Yeah, that sounds cool. I'd be down for something like that.
Nice. Maybe one of our future podcast episodes could be on a little couples trip to a cabin in the woods. Me and you, you and I, us.
Yeah. I mean, we wouldn't be allowed to record a podcast on the trip, would we?
Yeah, I mean, it's fairly self-imposed, so you can do what you like.
Yeah, I'm down. All right, we better
wrap things up. Gotta walk over to the studio. By the way, I've been loving the whole walking to the studio and back every day.
Really?
It's glorious.
Half an hour, 40 minutes?
It's like half an hour, 40-minute walk. Yeah, it's sick. And I've been noticing that because of, I'm on a bit of a nutrition plan. Like my weight's actually been like steadily going down on the scales as well, which is like the first time in my life I've actually experienced that when you eat fewer calories and move more, your weight actually goes down. And it's just like, I can't believe this works. Like, I've always been skeptical. People are always like, calories in, calories out. It's like, no, that just cannot be true. But it seems to be. Anyway, we'll talk about that another time. Thanks everyone for listening, and we'll see you in the next episode.